think we'll go by my clock, which is on my wrist, but also the phone says 4 o'clock too, so. So we'll start this, September 13 Board of Adjustment meeting and call it to order. First off, we need to consider the approval of the August minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll move to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Carrie. Anyone want a second?
Second.
Thank you, Devin. All right, any discussion about them? Are there any like friendly edits or amendments that we need to make to it? I looked over them, I thought they were pretty accurate.
There was one, and it's been
You've
given to
already
Shira, and
moved
she's
it.
already corrected
Was
it.
it just a spelling copy?
It was actually a vote. It should have been under the ayes rather than the nays.
I got you. And Shira, you know, like on page, 3 of the packet you gave us, if you would just put an A in my name instead of an I there. Things like, just little things. You know where I'm talking about?
Yes.
All right, thanks. Okay, so any other corrections need to be made, or? All right, all in favor of approving the August minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. All right. So Shira, do you need me to sign that after the meeting?
Yes, sir.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4 cases to hear today, so we'll start the public hearing, open it up. First off, case number V 2018-005. Jeremy, do you want to introduce this one to us?
Yes, this is a case that we had last month that got postponed to today's meeting. Is the applicant here this time? Okay. Good. Is requesting a 25-foot variance from the 25-foot setback requirement in order to construct a carport in the front of the property in a multifamily zone district located at 1090 North Race, being Lot 7, Block 1 of the Butler Addition, City of Stephenville, Erath County. As you'll see from your packet, the minimum depth from the front yard setback is 25 feet. They are looking for a 25-foot variance from that setback, which would make it a 0 on the lot line. You have your options to grant a variance with modifications, deny the variance, or defer any actions if you need further information. And Karen, if you don't mind kind of flipping through the pictures, this is the location here. It's going fast. Oh, you're going back, okay. So the first one's aerial. This one here is the zoning for the requirements, or for the property. You see the pink is multifamily zoning. If you go to the next one, this is the future land use, calls for it to be single family, and then the last one will be where the carport, how it's proposed on there, and so it goes all the way to the property line. And I can entertain any questions. I think the applicant's here, and they can probably answer them better than I could.
So it goes to the property line, but there would still be an easement, or?
Well, there's typically off of the roadway, there is off the 31-foot road, there's a 9-foot right-of-way that's typical on a local road, and that's pretty accurate. I think that one's a little bit wider, like 12 feet, but there's typically there's typically a 9-foot setback from the road.
All right.
So from the road to that property line is about 12 feet from what we estimate.
And the city had no objection? The staff has no objection?
No objection to their application. I mean, this is give you guys an opportunity to hear the case.
Sure, of course. Yeah. All right, Mr. Muscora, would you like to come up and speak to the board about this request? Would you like to answer questions? Just if you would, just stand here at the podium, introduce yourself, and then if you have any questions for us.
Hello everyone, my name is Jose Mascoro. We just come out here to get the approval to build a carport. We just try to make it a little bit bigger to fit like our vehicles around on that area, but we want to make it bigger, but we need to get your opinion. We can get it approved, because right now I think it's to make it small, be better for us to make it large. I don't know if it's any problem with that.
How many trucks or cars?
We try to fit 4. Right now it's concrete already, and pretty much we can put 4 cars. But I don't know where the property line is. I don't know if it's legal to have it that big or it has to be smaller. That's what we try to get the approval to get it enough to fit 4 vehicles.
And do you want to, what kind of carport are you thinking of?
Yes,
building?
just a regular one, just a metal carpool.
Just to protect your vehicles?
Yeah, just
from-
protect our vehicles from the sun and rain and all that. So we used to have a lot of trees, but right now, the neighbors, they removed some trees because they were kind of old, and right now there's no trees around.
Do you have a contractor helping you construct the carport? Or are you doing
Yes.
it by yourself?
No, somebody's gonna build,
Does your residence currently have a garage?
no. There's no garage right now.
And this is just a roof, no sides or anything?
No, just the roof.
Ben, Carrie?
I don't have any questions.
You have any questions or anything?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much.
We appreciate it. All right. Are there any other neighbors or citizens from the city that wanted to come speak to this request? Do we have anybody in line to do so?
I did receive a letter today, though, from the property owner of 1051 North Race that is approving for them to have the carport, that they don't have no issues with it.
Okay, so they're basically reinforcing that wouldn't
That they're
bother
okay,
them?
correct.
Okay. Appreciate that. I think that should go on the record too, if you could. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll close the public hearing part of this meeting and open the discussion to the board. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve the variance requested in case number V 2018-005 as requested.
Second.
Thank you, Devin. So Stephen has made the motion, Devin seconded it, and discussion?
I drove the neighborhood, and there's
Mhm.
probably 3 other houses that have the carport all the way to the road.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it.
Well, I'll go ahead and ask for a vote. Then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. So it's been approved. All right, good luck. All right, so now we'll move to the next case, which is, I'm gonna make sure I get this. Case number SE 2018-006, and this is from applicant Lamar Signs. So Jeremy, if you'd introduce this one to us.
Lamar Signs requesting a special exception under section 1211 to allow a billboard to be constructed off premise at 1929 West Washington. This location, it will be a digital billboard at this location. When considering this, as you guys know, the decision should be made about effect of public health, safety, and welfare, the effect of the value of surrounding properties, the potential interference with enjoyment of the surrounding properties, aesthetics, the necessity of special exception for public health, safety, and welfare for governmental purposes, the zoning district and zoning adjoining districts. Those were criteria the council had passed that we should be considering. So if we look at the presentation, Karen, if you'll flip through some of those slides. This is location, the intersection of Harbin and Washington. The gas station that's there, for the lack of me, I can't remember the name of the gas station. Go ahead and flip through. It is commercial zoning on that property to basically surrounded by on all sides, except for to the south, which is Tarleton. Future land use calls for that all to be Tarleton, at some point in the future. And then I think there's a couple of renderings of how the sign will sit in there on coming from both ways. I thought it was the other way. Only one side on the rendering for this one. So I know Mr. Jason Haskins is here, he can answer any questions from Lamar Signs. The property owner has given him permission to speak on behalf of this case.
All right, thank you.
Jason Hankins with Lamar. Love to answer any questions, concerns that you guys may have, and open discussion about it. My name's Jason Hankins. I'm with Lamar Outdoor Signs. First and foremost, I'd just like to thank you guys for the opportunity to come before you to answer any questions that may come up about this billboard. We are looking, like you said, to do a digital here. Feedback from a lot of the business members in town, and they look forward to something like this here in Stephenville.
You say it's a digital billboard?
Yes, sir.
And what are the dimensions of it?
It's going to be a 12 by 24 is roughly the screen size.
Do you have any other signs in town that are of that size, that dimension?
The
that we
most
could-
recent one we put up on the I can't think of it, the taco store there. Yeah, 377, 281, same size as that static that we put up about 3 months ago.
Oh, static one, yeah, not
Yeah.
digital.
Yeah, it'll be
Yeah,
the same
behind
size.
the Mexican restaurant right
Yes,
there
sir.
on the corner, yeah.
Yes, sir. It'll be the same size as that.
But digital,
But digital. Yes, sir.
so in living color.
Well, it won't pop out as
Okay.
much as you're thinking. That's something we have a little bit of literature about here, what the brightness of it. Actually, our billboards are designed to where they only have 300 BTI on it, to where your cell phone, just a comparison, a cell phone has 400. Our billboards at night will dim down to 300. So it'll be less bright than a cell phone is the most common comparison for people to comprehend.
Okay, so not as bright as that one that's on 281 in Lincolnville Highway.
281, it's not
There's a
really-
corner there with a big sign that seems to be really bright.
It's
You can see
probably
it
an
from.
on-premise sign. On-premise signs tend to be substantially brighter than what
Okay.
ours are.
Yeah.
Mm,
Do you have any idea what kind of BTI those typically are? Those on-premises signs are?
Yeah, this is our GM, Tommy Roberts.
Mhm.
Have him with permission to come up and speak. He has a little bit of literature about it.
Thank you, Jason.
Kind of stepping back to your
If
previous
you'd
question.
introduce
Yeah,
yourself for us.
Sorry, I'm Tommy Roberts, I'm with Lamar Advertising. Stepping back to the previous question about, I just wanted to also illustrate that TxDOT regulates digital billboards on their arteries to not to have any motion or any moving animation. And so that, our digitals operate, the changing of the messages are instantaneous. And so, but the actual display of the message is static. We have a dwell time of 8 seconds, so each message is there for 8 seconds, and then it rotates to the next message instantaneously. So so on-premise signs are not regulated by TxDOT. And so they are allowed to be brighter, have motion. So if you take, for instance, like a Sonic sign, or the sign that you're speaking of, the sun is 8,500 lumens, if that gives you a comparison.
Mhm.
Our signs go up to 8,500 lumens, but we only run them at about 90% of capacity, just for the fact that they tend to last longer if you just don't max them out. Whereas, and then we dim ours down in the evenings, about 30 minutes before dusk, they begin to start to dim down to 3% of capacity. And so that gives you about 300 lumens. And so even though they are brighter than the ambient, because the ambient is dark, they're not obtrusive. And if you look at our signs compared to that of on-premise signs, we're typically much dimmer, but I don't have any, statistics on how bright those on-premise signs are. I know they are brighter, but each one would have to be individually measured to tell you how bright they are. But I can tell you, we are typically much, much dimmer.
Okay, thank you. The mock-up, the simulation is to the left of what sign is already existing there? Right.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And so it's not competing, like, there's gotta be some, it's not like getting right in front of that one. You're saying it's,
Right, we should build them perpendicular to each other so that it doesn't block the sign from either direction. There is some engineered drawings that we sent over to Jeremy about the structure itself and how it'll be constructed. It will be a cantilever, so it will have a single column, it'll look like this, and then we'll cantilever over onto his property, I'd probably say 5 or 6 feet or something like that. So to come over, that way we can build the column as close to his property line as possible and then overhang his property with the structure itself. In that general, we selected this location just because this feedback from our advertisers, this tends to be one of the busiest intersections in town. I'm sure you guys know that at Harbin there. We did have some preliminary discussions with Tarleton State. I know the future land use for this is for Tarleton. Tarleton was open to the idea of having a billboard placed on their property at the corner where I guess is the baseball field. So this would have been right across the street. They typically have banners there, do some self-promotion. It's just that for the university, it just would have been more difficult for us to, all the stipulations that they would have had on the structure, it would have been difficult for us to make a good business decision there. And so we found this location, the landowner was more than happy to work with us on it. And so, again, the structure itself, 10 by 20 actually, it's 10 feet high, about 20 feet wide. And so it's 200 square feet basically. It's not the biggest structure by any means that TxDOT allows, but we feel that the size of it aesthetically is appropriate for the location. And we seek your approval on this spot.
the view here is that if you're going toward Tarleton, it's on your left.
Yes, sir.
And where is the primary audience for this sign in your mind? Is it gonna be people who are going that direction or people who are on the other side coming this way? I mean, I know how billboards work, but
No.
do you understand my
Yes.
who's the primary target audience?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And so for digitals, we like to target intersections because it is, the way we operate our digitals, we only allow for 8 advertisers. Some other operators will put more than that, and they piece them out in different ways, and that's up to them how they do it. We only allow for 8, and so what our studies have shown that typically a motorist will see 2.5 slots as they pass by one of our digital signs. And so we try to orientate them towards an intersection so that they have more opportunity to see more advertisers at that spot. And so that our main audience will be people that are stopped at the light on Washington traveling east at Harbin. They'll be stopped at that
Alright.
intersection.
And then it'll scroll maybe 2 messages to them.
Probably
About
so.
while
Yeah,
that
just
line's-
depending on how they catch the light that's accurate.
Right. And will it be dual-sided digital, like will on the westward, will people see a digital side there too? It's only digital on that one side?
That's correct. The other side would be static if we even had a side, if there was even a side on that side. I think at this time, as you can see in the photograph, there is some commercial activity a little bit to the east there with some trees. It's a short read, and so our main focus is really the digital side. And so the backside, I think it has value. However, it doesn't have the value to support a digital there.
But someone could still, I mean,
We could potentially
the
put-
landowner could still put or the leaser of the sign right there could still pay for a sign to be on the other side that's not digital.
Yes, that's correct. So it probably will have a static side on that side, and that we would mark. Yeah, yes, sir.
Even if it was Lamar saying, buy our sign space.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right,
That's
okay.
correct. Yeah. It could be so promo.
Okay.
And one of the things, a couple of the concessions that I've spoke to Jeremy about, that we have discussed, one is that Lamar will not allow for any sexually oriented businesses or alcohol. Well, just sexually oriented businesses to be placed on this billboard. And then I've even gone further than that and assured that any billboard inside of Erath County that Lamar operates won't have any type of sexually oriented businesses on it. And typically the way we operate in communities, if there's some type of message that's put up there that the community feels is inappropriate, typically they just call us and we take it down. But normally we know that we have to come to people like yourselves to ask permission to build billboards, and we try not to upset those folks by putting messages on on any type of structure that can be offensive. So that is one concession that we have made that we're gonna write into the recording of this particular lease. The other concession that Lamar is making, Lamar will grant the city of Stephenville one of the 8 spots to use in perpetuity, forever, as long as the sign is there, for any purpose that they choose for one of their entities, for the city or one of their entities in Lamar. That will be gratis, and we'll cover any type of copy change or artwork that goes along with that. So it can be used for any kind of messages, or that's the same type of situation that we worked with in early Texas, when we placed a digital there on their what would basically be City Hall's property there. And so it's something that Lamar has done in the past, and I think it works well to be a partner in the community that we're trying to advertise to.
Any other questions from the board?
What is the height from the bottom of the board to the surface?
Currently, it's going to be 35 feet. I know that we have it's difficult to see in this photograph, but there is a gas canopy there over their pumps. And so we just want to, I think the on-premise sign there, we'd have to haggle it again, but I think this photograph is pretty to scale. The board that we just constructed out at the corner of 281 and 377 is 35 feet. I know that at the previous meeting we discussed that TxDOT gives us up to 42.5, but I felt like 35 feet was appropriate, and then there was some concerns about being high enough so that there wouldn't be any vandals that would try to access our structure. Luckily, that actual structure wound up just being 18 feet high, so 35 feet overall. There was quite a bit of space to be above it. So this particular structure would be 35 feet as well. But I just wanted to bring up that other structure so you have a good visual reference of how high it would be.
So in that mock-up, the sign immediately to the right is actually the gas station sign that says the prices of the gas?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because I was wondering where that one was gonna be, if it had been photoshopped out, but that's the sign.
Yes, sir.
It's-
That is
okay.
it. That's accurate.
Okay. Gary, Ben? Duff? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts.
Moment, if I may, just
Yes.
to correct it, I mean, the city has not agreed to take any spot, and, you know, that's not for me to decide. I mean, I know they've offered that, and I have not entertained any
Quid pro
idea
quo.
of taking a spot, so just clear the record that we haven't partaked in any kind of contract or any kind of agreement for advertising, so.
Just my understanding, you're saying that that's part of the
If the city chooses.
package?
Sure, if the city chooses, it's something that's available, it's something like Jeremy said we've offered, but the discussions on that have been very minimal. And so, but that is something that we've floated out there, and that we're more than willing to do.
I know the city of Early, they put the billboard on their property, and that was part of the lease type of agreement, is to work out an arrangement for that because it was on their property. I've spoke to the city manager in Early,
Mhm.
and that was part of it. But for this particular case, for any billboard, we haven't agreed to any kind of advertisement because that wouldn't be right, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Shira, do you have anybody on the, now I know that in the package itself, we got a letter,
Correct.
right, maybe 2?
Same person, just they got the letter of notification both months, and so they made sure
Oh.
they wanted to reaffirm their, against the billboard at that location.
Got it.
And it is Mr. Allen, he owns, I think the properties, I believe he owns like it's the old apartment complex that's got some commercial buildings there. So I believe there's a fear of, the billboards, interfering with, his businesses and people being able to see those businesses there.
Where are his,
I think that.
it's right there on the road, right?
Right,
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Is Mr. Allen here today by any chance?
I think he just said he couldn't make the
Okay.
meeting, but that's why.
The letter's
he
here.
sent the letter, yes.
All right. All right, well, then we'll close the public hearing, and the board can,
Did you ask if anybody else was?
Yeah, I
speak
did.
against? I just make sure we.
is anyone else in the community here who would like to speak to this request? I did that, but
Okay, I'm sorry.
Shira,
Make sure.
there was nobody in line to do that, so. All right, so, public hearing is closed now on this, case. Do I hear a motion to grant this variance, or, it's a special exception, requesting a special exception.
I would like to have a brief discussion about it before any kind of motions, if everybody would hold off. Looking at just all the factors, I think one of the main things for me is just that the fact that there are no other billboards in this area for aesthetics and for what may come in the future. I know that there is a future plan that it could be targeted, and obviously that could be torn down or whatever comes of that. But to me, this is like kind of like Main Street area. I kind of designate to probably the Ford dealership. I drove that today. I may have missed a sign, but I don't know of any. I don't know of any signs, billboards that are out there. So that's one of my concerns. Obviously, made it known that I'm a proponent of people being able to use the property that they have the way that they want to use it. Based on the factors that are correct, obviously this is another citizens, neighboring property owners' complaints, and concerns about what it may do to their property and affect their income. For mainly those reasons, I would say I'm leaning towards not approving, but I did want to have kind of a discussion and hear what the rest of the board thought about those factors, like I said, just looking at A through F. It's hard for me to really place anything, any kind of benefit or anything in those limited factors as to why we would approve. But I'm certainly open to hearing anything from the board. So that's my 2 cents.
May I speak if it's going wrong way?
The public hearing part is closed, but VW, of course, you're welcome to give us some feedback, but we would have to reopen the public hearing now. That I think that,
We leased this, VW Stevens, we leased the sign, both sides of it. As you know, I think we're an asset to your community, $4 million plus a year. Nothing pertaining to alcohol is on the sign. 2 restaurants are what we're looking at, being a half a mile off the beaten path. It cannot be a liability to the property, it's eventually going to be an asset. Anything would have to be behind that area. We need to sign half mile down off the beaten path of 281. My feelings are 281 is probably our number 2 asset under Tarleton of Stephenville. So I'd like to see this approved. Any questions from us? We're doing 5-year lease on the sign.
Are you the property owner? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Are you the property owner of this property? I just know. Are you the property owner?
What?
Are you the property owner?
Am I a property owner in Stephenville?
No, of this property.
No, I'm not.
Okay,
I'm the
you're
leasee
fine.
of the sign.
Okay, all right. yeah.
I'm sorry I'm not here.
No, you're fine.
So
Well, I know
much
my
allergies is really
No,
getting me in trouble.
You're fine. I know my microphone is having some issues or something. I just wasn't sure.
No, I'm not the property owner.
Okay. You are planning on leasing
Thank
the
you.
billboard. Okay, gotcha.
thank you, VW. Sorry?
He might be confused. I think he's talking about this.
I think that maybe it's the next one.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But sit tight, VW, because we have another case that I think your sign is part of. And so that one we definitely want you to speak to it.
Yes, I have
So-
interest in that because I need a sign.
I understand, okay, so, sure. I'm just looking at the picture, and I know that, you know, that Tarleton State ultimately, within who knows how many more, you know, months or years, that they come along and say, we're raising all that, and we're gonna put a parking lot, or whatever it is that they might do. And so that sign would be moot. But at the same time, I'm not so sure that the city's board here needs to inhibit that business. I don't think that it's an eyesore just from looking at that. And the whole point is, while you're sitting at Harbin waiting for the light, which is a pretty long light there, considering our city, you know, they're all short. But if you're saying there's 2 cycles, that you would see 2 signs basically during that digital scrolling, I just don't think that that's gonna be that obtrusive, or that I don't think it's gonna be an eyesore there. So I know that we're thinking of protecting that kind of main street that you're talking about, but I've driven by that other sign that we approved, by, what is it,
Mascaros.
no,
Some Mascaros?
no, it's on.
Castillo's.
Yeah, Castillo's, I was gonna say Ronaldo's, and that sign is very, just almost, you know, it's invisible except for the ad there, you know, and it's not obtrusive, so I'm just thinking, the way it's described for us here, I don't think that it's gonna be, but I think in a way we're getting ahead of ourselves, because I really should hear a motion one way or the other, and then we can have the discussion, and then we can either vote against it or for it, so.
I would move that we deny the request for the special exception under case number SC 2018-006.
I'll second.
Now we have some time for discussion, and, Ben, Devin?
My main concern is just with Tarleton buying up all those lots around there, what happens to the billboard if Tarleton buys all the land around it? You know, does it stay, or they move it, or?
Mr. Roberts would have to be able to.
I mean, at that point, I mean, we have we have new property owners all the time. You know, the fact that Tarleton was open to having a billboard placed on their property, I mean, it kind of cues me in that they're not opposed to it being there. At that time, we would just have to work out any kind of details with them on if they want it to remain, if they want to utilize it in some capacity for their own promotional purposes. And so that's, you know, typically I can tell you though that billboards convey with the property, they don't convey with ownership. And so, you know, if they purchase a property, they would inherit it, but then, you know, once the lease came up, then it's their decision to decide whether they wanted to keep the structure or for us to take it down.
All right, thank you. Let me just ask the two of you who are again opposed to this special exception, how is it gonna violate any of those A through F? What is the objection to that sign being there? And in terms, how is it gonna affect the quality of life for anyone who's sitting at that sign, at that intersection?
I look at safety. It's already a congested area, and I'm not sure that the majority of citizens in our community want billboards up and down inside the city limits main
Okay.
thoroughfare. To me, it kind of clutters the airspace. I'd rather have just regular business signs, and that way it's sort of a level playing field for businesses. And especially being a digital, I think it could, you know, impair the traffic. That's just,
Okay.
I mean, I would concur with that. I mean, you know, one of the things is, under E, it says that the necessity of the special exception for the public health, safety, and welfare of the citizens or the governmental purposes, I don't see any benefit to any of those, for any of that. And so, like Carrie said, that's another reason, but the aesthetics alone, like I said, for me personally, I look at it, it's more of like that's the main street, and like you said, we have regulations, well, you know, the city has ordinances about what kind of signs you can put up,
Yeah.
how big they can be, and now all of a sudden you're competing with that, and so it's kind of bringing that, a new factor into business in kind of the main street, and in my opinion, I just don't think it falls under any of these special exceptions, so that's why I would reject it, or deny the special exception.
Okay. I'm just, I think it's about the location within this kind of Main Street concept that you guys are conceptually, I mean, it's a philosophical kind of construct, but there are other signs that we have approved that are larger, taller, bigger, but they're just in a different location, and so that's the issue.
I would
Yes.
agree, yes,
Yes.
that's my issue.
And I think I'm excited actually to see digital signs coming to Stephenville. I personally just don't think this is the best location for it.
All right, Ben, you have any comments?
I agree.
You do?
As far as, no, I don't think it'd look good on Main Street there.
All right. All right, well, I'll call the question then. All in favor of denying this special exception, please say aye.
Aye.
I'm opposed. So, all right, so it's a 4-1 vote. And so this case number SE 2018-006 has been denied. There were other options with any of these requests that they could be approved with a modification. So do I hear any motions that that this request be approved with some form of modification, or are we gonna move along?
In that motion.
Yeah, it's
so
already-
At this point, it's been denied, so you can't reopen that.
Oh, well,
It should have been with the motion, or amend the motion with the modifications, but the motion's been passed as a denial, or denied.
Yeah, move on.
all right. Our next case is case number SE 2018-007, and it's also the applicant is Lamar Signs, and I think this one's on 2963 West Washington, and the next request is also a billboard sign on 1111 East Washington. So for VW's benefit, I don't know which of those signs you're the lessee. The last one, okay. So the last request. So Jeremy, if you'd go ahead and introduce to us this case number SE 2018-007.
Applicant Lamar Signs requesting special exception under Rule 11 to allow billboards constructed at 2963 West Washington. Very similar as far as what the board should consider. You can flip through the location of that, if you will. Aaron, please. So you'll see the location with Techstar Ford on the west side of that. To the south, you see the Boston Crossing and that gate gas station there. The next slide, please. It is commercial zoning, across the way is industrial. Next slide. Future land use does call for it to be commercial. Next slide. This is a view of the billboard, heading, this will be heading.
What, that's east.
And the other one will be the other, coming from the other direction.
Right.
I can answer any questions specifically. Of course, Lamar Signs is here to represent this case as well.
Thanks, Jeremy. So, would you like to come back? Is it a similar, is it a static or it's a digital?
So this side, which is the east face, would be static, and the west face would be digital. Again, facing into the intersection there at Northwest Loop for traffic heading eastbound. So this is the static side that you're looking at now.
Right, that's the westward.
Yes, this is
Yeah.
the westward flowing traffic, yes, sir. And you've got the Boxberger Center there on your left.
Mhm.
And then the previous image was going to be the digital side.
And then that is going eastward, and the digital sign would be on the left.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. if I could.
Yeah.
So the genesis of us beginning to look at digitals inside of Stephenville was a conversation. It's something that our industry's moving that way. It's a conversation that I had with Jeremy a while back, that the reason why the billboard ordinance was rewritten was to potentially include digitals into the city of Stephenville. Coming into Stephenville, from Brownwood, I think I counted over 10 digital on-premise signs. And so one of the benefits that we give to the community is that business owners can purchase digital at a fraction of the cost of buying their own. I think Mr. Stevens can attest he has a digital on his own premise, and he probably spent a lot of money on it. On average, they spend between $50,000 and $100,000 to place these digitals on their own property. And so if the city of Stephenville is willing to grant permission for businesses to own their own digital, I don't see much of a difference between us having an off-premise digital in the community and allowing business owners to purchase it at a fraction of the cost. And to back up to the safety question, one of the things that I included when I sent this to Jeremy, it may be in your packet, it may not be, there's a letter that I've included, which is from the U.S. Department of Transportation to an organization that was seeking to block a digital billboard in their community. And basically, the information in this is strictly about safety. And independent studies as well as industry-sponsored studies have shown that digital billboards do not pose any threat to the traffic or a safety hazard. More precisely, this is from the Federal Highway Transportation Organization. It says the presence of digital billboards do not appear to be related to a decrease in looking toward the road ahead, which is consistent with early industry-sponsored field research studies done by the Virginia Technical Institute. The largest fixation to a digital billboard was 1.34 seconds, and to a standard billboard it was 1.28 seconds, both of which are well below the accepted standard. And so what this article goes on to say is that people driving their vehicles, they give their attention to the task at hand, and typically that's driving. And so they may glance at our billboard, and look back at the road, but what we've seen over and over again, that they do not pose a safety threat, as opposed to looking for your phone that you drop inside the crack of your seat or something like that. And so, but I know that's a concern, and that's something that needs to be taken into consideration. And I know that, according to whether this fits into the health and well-being of the community, I don't see where it hurts it, and I definitely see where it helps the business owners in this community. And if it didn't, there wouldn't be so many on-premise signs, digitals that they operate and maintain. So, again, I'm asking for your approval of this digital location. I think it's, the use of it is, it's a very commercialized area, many on-premise signs. I don't think one more 10 by 20 sign is gonna damage this area aesthetically, so I ask for your approval.
And this one is 35 feet tall, too?
That is correct.
And it is a 10 by 20?
Yes, sir, 10 by 20.
Any questions for Mr. Roberts? Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Are there any other people from the community who would like to speak to this? Yes, sir. Did you sign in?
I did.
Okay, great. If you'd come up and just state your name and then make your statement.
Thank you. I'm Doug Montgomery. I own Techstar Ford Lincoln. We recently, after 20 years, got to build a nice building. Out here, we're very proud of it. And we'd hate to see a billboard come in and block the view of that building on West Washington. Now, for those of us that take our lives in our own hands using that intersection several times a day, I can't believe that a digital sign wouldn't pose more problems. Y'all know what we deal with out there. Y'all see the wrecks up and down Washington Street. So I think, on top of the textures, a digital sign would be pretty disastrous for those roads. In fact, a guy on a motorcycle was killed out there the other day. We got it on our cameras. I mean, it was brutal right there in that intersection. So I don't mind billboards out, on the highways and stuff in town. I think they're not good. I have advertised them on them before, but not inside the city limits. I'm not a big fan of that. And I think with as congested as our city's getting, the way Tarleton's growing, I agree with some of the board that I think it's a bad idea to have anything else out there drawing attention to drivers on this particular road. And that's where we're at. That area of town's building, a lot of good buildings. We came down to see what the sign ordinance was. We made it fit our area at the new dealership. We got the rules, we lived with the rules. I kinda like that.
Thank you. Any questions for? No? All right.
I have a question for Jeremy. How does this fit into the sign ordinance regarding digital signs? What's the limit of size on those as opposed to
It's gonna be
this?
the same, I have to go back and look at it, but digital billboards are allowed. There's a section there that find it. I can do that.
You want this copy?
The book.
If you guys have any other questions that you guys wanna pose.
Are there any other citizens from the community that would like to speak to this case? All right, thank you.
Might be able to answer Perry's question while Jeremy's looking. I think if I recall, the ordinance states that it mirrors TxDOT's regulations. And with that being the case, TxDOT allows digital billboards up to 672 square feet, is their regulation. TxDOT allows, for digitals within 1,500, no closer than 1,500 feet of each other, and within visual distance of each other. So if that helps answer your question a little bit. And there is a TxDOT permit that's been approved for this location.
But that's in regard to billboards, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And
And
I might
digital.
not have been clear. I was asking what our digital sign policy says in regards to how it relates to this.
Something different, then, I'm sorry. And I don't, digital signage is allowed in the city. They allow for it. Is there something specific that you're looking for?
Like size,
There was no, I think it just has to go with like a pole sign or a monument sign, and it'll go, the size will go with that for like an on-premise sign.
whatever those parameters
What
are.
those parameters are. So a billboard, the way it's spelled out, like he mentioned, it must meet TxDOT requirements. We have something there that says it has to be, there's only a 2-second transition, that, at least, there has to be at least a 2-second transition. So.
And I think it addressed brightness as well. Is that correct?
For the digital billboard part of it, I think there is something
Okay.
like practice. I think, with what they're wanting to do, it would meet TxDOT requirements. Doesn't say you have to go with because of that, but I think they meet all the regulations that have asked for through TxDOT and our sign ordinance, if you allow it. I'm not saying you have to allow it, but I think it would meet that requirement.
Okay.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And do I hear a motion to grant special exception?
If you will, moment, before you take that motion, if you'll note that there was a letter in your packet, against the location as well. from Mr.
Is it, okay. Yeah,
He voiced his concerns, and I don't know if you want to read the letter or.
I'm not gonna read it out loud. We didn't do that with the other one, but I'll certainly, Shira, you have this for the record. We can put that in. Only because I didn't read the letter last time, so I won't read this one too. But, I mean, I read it, but I'm just not gonna read it aloud. All right. But we appreciate Mr. Brooks giving us his feedback, even if he couldn't attend in person. We appreciate the letter. And it is strongly against this request. All right, do I hear a motion to grant special exception or to deny the special exception?
I'll move to deny. Case number 2018-007.
Second.
Any discussion on this? Is it the same objection as the
I
other one?
would say it's the same objection. This was a lot more difficult for me. Again, I think this is still kind of that Main Street area. One of my concern is that there is some open land not far down the street from that I know that it's for sale, or there could be potentially people coming in. Again, I know you're trying to bring business in with your signs and everything, but that did kind of cause me some concern, as you don't know what that new business may come in there and how they feel about it. There's obviously concern from other citizens, and so like I said, this one wasn't near as easy in my opinion as the other one. This one's a little more difficult just because it is kind of on the outskirts. It's more open. There's really no direct blocking of how close the building was on the other Washington location. But in the end, looking at the factors that the council has recently provided to us, I just don't see how it fits in to grant a special exception in this case. So.
Ben, you have anything?
I agree with Stephen.
Well, I just want the community to understand that if this board has its parameters, and even if it rejects or doesn't grant, there are other avenues, and that is to go to the city council, talk to them and say, we want you to change this law. Because then we don't have to give a special exception, or we don't have to deny, or we don't have to grant variances, or, so when it comes to billboards, and especially digital billboards apparently, it looks to me like no matter how I vote, I'm just the chair here, that this decision is ultimately gonna be, one that people need to take to the city council and have those people, make some hard decisions on maybe changing this regulation, because, you know, frankly, I've been a board member for a long, long time, never won billboard requests until very recently. So something's changed, something's happened, and now we're getting a lot of requests. So I think that maybe the city might want to reconsider on the council level, like making some changes. I see a few in the audience right now too, so. All right, so I think we'll call the question. All in favor of denying the special exception, please say aye.
Aye.
And I oppose this motion. So that's 4-1, please, Shira. Thank you. We'll move along to case number SC 2018-008. Jeremy?
More signs requesting special exception, 1211 billboard construction on premise at 1111, which is what we call Bargain Town. It is, from what I understand, a static sign. You will, Aaron, kind of flip through. This was, give or take, the location of that sign. Commercial zoning, the future zoning is next, and that it would be, future land use calls for it to be commercial as well. I think there's a couple of renderings as well. So you'll see it's kind of run parallel with Washington. It's a little further out, it's hard to see in that picture, but that's a closer view of it. From what I understand, I'm sure Lamar can explain, you know, we passed a billboard, I think 3-4 months ago.
Yep.
At the music location there. From what I understand, they're gonna revoke or submit to get that permit revoked from TxDOT and apply for this one here. But I'll let them kind of explain that process that they're going through, and might make more sense.
In other words, they're requesting to change the location of the sign that we've already approved
Right.
to this location,
Right.
which is on the other side of the building.
Right.
Okay, that makes more sense.
That's correct. We have already, we've received approval from TxDOT for this location. They give us a window of 30 days to cancel the permit that was there at the music store, which we have already communicated to them. So we have already canceled our TxDOT permit in that other location. And then it's just a matter of just getting to the paperwork for them to send us the approval. And so we are asking that this previous location be approved. It's just a better business decision for us to move this location. I think at the previous meeting, there was some concern about the aesthetics of it and affecting the view downtown. That's why we gave this view from traveling west on Washington, just to show how far off the road that the sign is, still. And so, as Mr. Stevens has previously said, he's looking to contract this board, for his businesses. And, it's a location that I think fits into the area, and, we just ask for your approval on it.
Is the sign dimensions gonna change any from the previous?
No, it's still the same size.
I wasn't a part of the meeting that, it was, I guess, original location was approved, so it was on the northbound side of the music store?
That's correct.
Oh, so you're just moving it closer to 377?
That's correct, yeah. It's
Gotcha.
moving south approximately, I don't know, maybe 2
And that's static or digital?
Static.
What's the
It's
orient,
static, no digital.
what's the orientation of the sign? Is it just exactly like what we approved earlier? You're just moving it this direction, but
Yes.
like this?
Yeah.
And it was gonna tilt a little bit, there was some kind of discussion of the tilting towards the, can you kind of go into that detail, especially for Devin, who wasn't in that?
Sure, no, and I think, our plan was to just put a back-to-back static there, and that's kind of what this is. I know, the one that's there that was built at 377 and 281 has a V to it. This structure will not have a V to it, it'll just be a straight back-to-back. And so.
It'll be perpendicular to, Morgan Mill Road, yeah.
That's correct, yeah. And so it will face north and south almost, for two of traffic.
So the picture here is not correct. It's gonna be a back-to-back billboard, because this shows separated and cantilevered a little bit.
Yeah, the structure that they used in that has a little bit of a V to it, but
Okay.
the structure that we're gonna place there,
There's a
we already have.
flat sign.
Yeah, we already have in our possession.
Like
It's gonna
this.
be flat, back.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you very much. We appreciate it. VW, this would be the time if you would like to speak on behalf
No,
of.
I think I spoke way early. I think I got mine in early.
All right, come on up if you would, Brian. Did you fill out the form and all that?
I got just the letter.
Oh.
I'm the owner of the other piece of the property, if you allow me.
So how will we
My
work
name
that
is
out?
Alois Piscor. I'm the owner.
If you will, after you get done, if you'll get a paper from Shimer, fill out, go ahead and speak now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Anyway, I got this letter and, I'm definitely opposing this, this idea to put it on the, in the middle between my property and Bargaintown property. This used to be very valuable. If you look at it, the design, very valuable property, but the sign, so far I don't see the location. If I have a sign with, the big sign is going to now cover my advertising of ALP music, means definitely it cannot benefit me. When it was original on the north side, see, there's a dead property, there's nothing happening. It was absolutely perfect spot, except there's not enough of my property, to place it there. Now, they went different direction. My problem is, it's going to really affect value of my property. And honestly, I'm still want to stay in business 2 years, and whoever buys this property will have a very valuable piece of property. But with the sign in the middle of the property, I don't think it's worth anything. You see, that's why I'm very opposing this idea. This sign really, when I looked at the restaurant over there, it really distorts completely the property. It's like a tower, metal tower of advertisement, which really, I know that people come to the light, I'm not sure how many they read, but my opposition is really that it's going to cover, it will be right by my border of the property. It doesn't tell me exactly the location. It's going to be close to the 281, close to the 377, the loop area, or close to the auto place. It doesn't give me any spot where they're going to place it. Means I'm absolutely opposing and kind of scared because really my business will be not able to be seen at all. Thank you very much.
But at the moment, where the billboard was approved, you have no objection.
I had no objection.
All right.
We had some other objections with dealing with the business side. and they probably will in different directions.
Do you have an idea of how far you think you want it to be placed from your property line?
I have no idea what, see, there's a pipe fence line. I visited with a neighbor. He was not even aware what's going on exactly. I have no idea what kind of agreement I cannot tell you what is the vision. They never revealed to me exactly how many feet is going to be from the road, in the middle of the road. See, there's no, it's a diagram, but there's no proper location, proper point of placing the mantle, whatever the pipes into the ground. That's my,
Any other questions for,
Alois Preschool.
thank you. Mr.
Any, your business, your advertisement is on your building?
On my building, yeah, sir, on the south side.
And how tall is your building? Do you know?
It's 24 by, let's see, it's 60 by 40, it's probably less than 20 feet.
Be like probably a 14-foot peak or something?
Yes, sir, the standard metal building.
Sure,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, please. Are there any other citizens from the community that would like to speak to this request? All right, if I don't hear any objections, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing on this case.
I may have one question for Lamar, if that's all right.
Sure.
Do you have a current placement, I mean, how many feet from the property line that you are gonna plan on placing the column?
We will, survey the property before the structure is built. However, I don't have a feet measurement from the property. I know where that red pin placement is on this small inset is not accurate. I know that's gonna be further to the south. Basically, if you can see where there's like a white Felici band south of the music store, pretty much right where the pavement starts in his parking lot. That's where we
Go back, sorry, Karen, we go back.
There's one with a green dot that shows it better. Next to
that
very,
And I
very,
put this green dot, so this, and I didn't do that one, keep going back, Karen. I put this green dot as based on the red dot that I had seen, but if you want to elaborate any more, so.
You know, the structure itself is actually gonna be a little further to the south than that, probably 20, 30 feet. It's gonna be, if you can see the north edge of his building, probably more, in line, with his building there. You know, whenever we, apply to TxDOT, we have to be, 5 feet off right away. And so, to have an exact measurement on how far from that property line, I can't really tell you. I know, I'm not sure what Stephenville's setback is. I'm sure we would adhere to that, for property lines. I know in other municipalities, it's different everywhere, but, typically what we work with is 5 feet to 10 feet setbacks, that type of thing. So, that's close to the placement of it, but it would be a little bit further south, than that location. And then again, the overall structure height would be 35 feet, and then the haggle at the bottom of the structure would be 23 feet. So, it's gonna be, in my opinion, if you're traveling north on 281, it's not gonna obstruct the view of his building or of his sign, because our sign is gonna be up above his building. And so the column might have a little read-through to it, but when you're sitting at that light, you can see at this angle, if you're looking over to your left, our structure is probably not gonna interfere with his building very much.
But where it presently was approved for doesn't obstruct any view on his building, and it doesn't, I mean, there's no signage on the other side, the north side.
Right, where it was previously approved was on the north side of his building, so it still would have been the same. I mean, the column would have the column would have been in front of his building, even though, although, I mean, it says, I believe it says ALP on the front of his building, and on the back, there's not anything, so, but.
what was the big decision to move it from the north to the south of the building?
It was just, we couldn't get Mr. Prescore to finalize his agreement, so we had to relocate.
Say that again, please.
We could not come to a financial, Mr. Prescore would not finalize his agreement, so we could not come to a final agreement, so we had to relocate.
You wouldn't come to an agreement where it was previously? So you're just opposed to the sign no matter where it is? Or are you, you said you were okay with it in the other place, but then there's no agreement financially? I don't, can you help?
It's interesting business dealing. I'm in business for many years. First came contract in front of me, and then when I agreed, then money came in front of me. See, there's a completely different dealing. I'm like you are talking to me fairly, I'll talk back. I like when we have both negotiated our thing. There's no negotiation was done. The contract was supposed to be for 10 years for me. 10 years paid in advance to me. I may not be alive in 10 years. If I sell the property, am I responsible to pay, let's say if I died in 5 years, or sell the property, let's be fair, in 5 years, will the other 5 years go to the new owner? See, those were my questions that I talked to them. The question never answered. Sort of, there was I would say, we just couldn't, there was not communication. And also they wanted too much information about my business. If I own the property, even deed company called me, all those things. I own everything. Everything is paid for. I think there was nobody's business. It was just lease. You see, that's where we got crossed. So I'm sharing with you exactly why they went different directions. Because the negotiation stopped. Even when at the beginning it looked promising, the negotiation broke down.
I know there's no terrain or anything like that on these maps, but am I wrong? Is your property a little bit set lower than the property next to you?
Yes, it is. Downhill. I used to have trouble. That's why they put a rail. My building was from the downhill people, all cars that were driving to my buildings. Believe me, I went through some interesting life situation. And when I saw the sign, last time I was defending that would maybe weather hazard, can we get tornado, but they assured us that there's no problem. And I see they're right. But on the other hand, I'm looking at the value. Like the gentleman was saying, we need to really keep certain places kind of attractive, still not to destroy the metal, with only, a problem is the contract, 10 years. 10 years you cannot move it, and if you move it, it costs lots of money, or change it. See, those are certain things I'm kind of thinking ahead for the other people. As I said, I may sell the business, somebody will get valuable property, but I don't want to depreciate the property for somebody else. That's what I didn't want. I promise you, whoever buys the property in a couple of years, I'm still going to spend at least 2 years, will have valuable piece of property.
Thank you very much. Could you come back?
Sure.
Thank you. I know exactly what Mr. Peace Corps is talking about in terms of obstruction of that sign, of that building. I'm a musician and I drive by there and I think, oh, there's a music store, how cool is that? And then I see Alp. And I think there's a throwback, you know, it's like from a bygone era that there's like a private, you know, music store as opposed to, you know, getting online and you know what I'm talking about. So I think that there is something very important about the sign on his business, his building wall. I think that's important. Is there, because we can approve a special exception with modifications, or we can just deny it like you've seen 2 others we denied. Is there any kind of compromise or any kind of work that could be done? There's a fly in here that was bothering you, now he's pestering us. Is there any compromise that could be made that would move the pole, not just the sign? Because you're right, the signage would probably be taller than the building, but you know, is there a way to move the pole to where it wouldn't obstruct the building's side view there on the, to where you could actually read unimpeded the entirety of the word Alp?
That is a good question. You know, the configuration of the sign, it's currently as what we call a center mount monopole.
Mhm.
With the pole in the center. The alternative would, what we would call a flag mount, where we could move the column over to the left and then the sign flag out over.
Just like in the first request, we saw a flag mount, but it was up, and then the sign went to the left. This one, you're saying you could have the flag where the pole, if you're facing north, could come up and then go to the right.
Sure. I think the only pause that I would have for that is that the structure that we plan to place there has already been, we already have it. We've already spent the expenditure on it. And then so to change the configuration to a flag, it's at a considerable expense to us. I mean, we're talking probably $30,000 for a flag structure. And so, I understand the concerns and understand your concerns. I know that, if we're able to fast forward to where we were on the rendering that we sent in, the music store is at a lower elevation from where this is, and I just don't know how much it's gonna be obstructed from our column being where it's at now, to be honest. And I don't have a rendering of us going north on 281, unfortunately. I wish we had. I just really feel like without being able to see it, I realize, you know, it sounds self-serving, but I think the obstruction would be minimal for people driving by for his own personal sign. But, I mean, if the modification is that's all we can put there, then that's what we have to live with. So, I'm not saying no, but.
What about like where the green dot is? Jeremy has already admitted that that's sort of like, you know, his attempt at putting it where he thinks it would be, but we could ask that the green dot be moved over, you know, maybe 10 feet to the left.
And
You know,
that's a possible,
I mean-
definitely. And like, I know it's kind of nebulous of where the exact location is of the structure. I mean, we could definitely do a survey to show exactly where it's gonna be, inside those property lines. I just think as you move it further to the left, you inhibit the view of it from traffic. The further away from the road you go, of course, it makes it more difficult to read. That'd be the only thing.
And my understanding is that by moving it from where we have already approved it to here, which is complicated because it's a different location, frankly.
Sure.
That the land that you're putting it on here is not his whatsoever, whereas
No, not
before
whatsoever.
you were out of the, Mr., yeah.
That's correct. It's a total new landfill. That's right.
And VW is not the landowner, he's just the lessee of the sign,
That's correct. He's purchasing both
where,
sides of the sign.
wherever it
Yeah.
ends up being posted.
Right, and to use it as a directional to pull people off of 281 to turn right or left, to visit his establishment.
Right, which is just down the street, yeah.
It's a directional, it's gonna be used as a directional signage for him.
Okay.
Were you waiting for the decision on this to see about getting a survey, or is that already in the works?
Have we surveyed this? We've, to be candid, I mean, we spent multiple thousands of dollars surveying the previous landowner's property, and we're just trying to make a good business decision and not survey it until we have some direction one way or the other, whether it's gonna get approved or not. And so, that's accurate. We won't survey it until there's an approval.
So we won't know the exact location of the pole until after if it does get approved, unfortunately.
So, I mean, it's kind of tough to spend $1,500 on a win. I mean, I'm not saying, you know, I mean, all y'all would be reasonable with your resources, and, yeah, I mean, we could probably make a more approximation without getting a survey to provide for you guys, most definitely. I mean, we could, print off this parcel, take some measurements ourselves and show exactly where it's gonna be located. But.
Is the landowner who the sign would be moved to not here?
He's not here, but he gave permission for them to speak on their behalf.
And he wouldn't, I mean, Jeremy, help me out. What are the parameters for where that green dot could go?
There's no setbacks from on a commercial district, so, I mean, you go all the way up to the property line, of course, you don't want to go over the property line, just a fence, like a fence would be, but it could go all the way to each property line. Commercial district, there is a front setback of 25 feet, there's no rear or side setbacks for that, so commercial.
So, I mean, it could even go right up where the building is, where those just move the green dot to the left into that little V. Just for the sake of Mr. Roberts,
Well, there's a taco trailer there.
You're talking about this area?
yeah, if you were to move, just go to your left,
Uh-huh.
right, keep going, right there, right? Is that a viability?
I mean, again, I think what happens is your readability gets diminished. The further you move it off the road, so now instead of just being in your line of sight as you're driving, to see that structure, you're gonna have to really look to the left to see it. And so I would have to drive it,
It's,
so,
it looks, okay.
I mean, I would have to drive it to look at the viability.
I'm just saying that would move it completely out of the line of sight of Mr. Pastor. What? Peace Corps. All right, Peace Corps. Anyway, it would move it beyond the line of sight of the Alp on Mr. Peace Corps' building. But, so I'm, you know, I'm a lover, not a fighter. I'm trying to figure this
Sure.
out.
Sure, I
Is there,
understand completely.
Yeah.
And so this line, this red line is the parcel property line, and this is right away here. So
Yeah.
we have to be 5 feet off of that red line, if that helps at all. And
that's what I was asking Jeremy.
Is there 10 feet from Mr. Peace Corps' property line coming this way? I mean, surely there is.
to move further to the south?
Yes.
Yes, there probably is.
Yeah, it's not unreasonable to assume that that thing could go, that the pole of the sign could go in line with the west side of his building.
That's probably accurate, we could do that. Yes, I mean, it could, it's just a matter of the configuration of the structure.
Sure.
What we place there, yes, sir.
That, to me, would, if it's a viability that you think that, I mean, it doesn't look like that big of an adjustment, but it would be a compromise that would,
Sure.
you know, no one would be completely happy and no one would be completely unhappy, but at least there would be some, you know,
I can understand that.
some movement. So, all right, we
Okay,
appreciate
thank
it.
you, appreciate it.
I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing, and so now, I'm asking the board if anyone wants to make a motion to, grant a special exception, or do I hear a motion to, deny this special exception for a billboard to be constructed off premises at 2045 North US Highway 3377?
I'll move that the request under case number SC 2018-008 be approved with modification. That the pole for the sign either be placed in alignment with the west building of west side of Mr. Peace Corps' building, or that it be built at least 10 feet from Mr. Peace Corps' property line.
Second.
Any discussion?
That is, obviously I would prefer it to be and, but
Yeah.
obviously there's other things out there, so the reason that I'm amending it to or would be obviously be good neighbors, to help out and keep it to where his building wouldn't be blocked by the pole if possible, but that may not be possible without surveys and, I mean, obviously we could delay this and wait, but, my opinion isn't gonna change a whole lot. So that's why I have the or, either 10 feet off, just because of the fact that the property is a little bit lower. It would increase, I guess, the viewing angle and how much higher it would be than Mr. Peace Corps' building.
And I,
Also taking into the fact that the columns, I mean, it's a column and not a
Yeah.
board, so obviously when you're driving,
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna obscure your view that much. But I'm more concerned with the actual board blocking any of his signage, so I request you take that into consideration, so
I-
that's why.
I personally would like to ask you to, a friendly amendment, just change your or to an and then I'd be completely behind it. But I think it's reasonable to ask for it to be on the west line and be 10, at least 10 feet off his property line, and that way it's over and down.
The only reason I wouldn't is just because of the fact I don't know the terrain out there, and because I do know the elevations are different, it's not flat, and obviously I would hope that they would put it as close over there as possible. But I guess I'm gonna deny your friendly request to amend my motion.
Well, if it's an or, and you just stay right there, but you just move 10 feet south, I don't think that's good faith enough. I think it's still gonna cover up Alp, and I don't think that's fair.
No, but,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with moving the column further to what would be the west, that west property line. You don't even have to include the 10 feet, that's fine, like you said, we wanna be good neighbors, and so, we'll do that. The one thing, I don't know, if this makes any difference, we may change the configuration of the sign a little bit to be a V if we do that. Just for the simple fact that it lends it a little bit more readability if we V it out a little bit as opposed to being back.
That's
and
fair.
back. So that would probably be the only thing that we ask, but I can do that, we can move it back over to the west, for sure.
All right.
Well, there's been a motion and it's been
Yeah.
seconded as
Well, we can always deny it and then have another one,
Yes,
so.
so.
And we've heard cooperation from the actual requester to where we could make the motion to where you would move it to the west. And, so, anyway, any other discussion on this before we maybe have another motion?
Well, I mean, here's where you could, if somebody wanted to amend it, you could make a motion. to
Okay.
amend the motion.
Anybody want to do a friendly amendment to this motion?
I'll move to amend the motion as stated, as long as it says moving to the west. Would that be sufficient?
Thank you, Carrie. And do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ben. All right, so now do we have to vote on that before we can move to the next?
Somebody read off, we're gonna need to vote on that.
No, I mean, vote on the amendment.
Right.
Yeah.
Vote on the amendment, let's read what we're amending, let's be clear.
All right,
what
Carrie, if you would.
voting on.
So this is Carrie's motion to amend Stephen's motion that we would move the pole that to the west of Mr. Peace Corps' building, to the west line of Mr. Peace Corps' actual building. Is that,
Yes.
okay. That's what we'd be voting yes for right now.
So just the amendment.
Yes, so, all in favor of that amendment to the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so 4-1 on that apparently. And now, that amendment is part of now that motion. Okay, so, any further discussion now on that? Are we, okay. All in favor of this motion that has the friendly amendment added to it, that would stipulate that the motion would be granted for special exception with the condition that the pole be moved to the west of Mr. Peace Corps' building line, at the least. And maybe even you could do the 10 feet thing, but, all right. All in favor of that, say aye.
No.
Aye. So we're all in favor of that. Thank you very much. Phew. All right,
Move to adjourn.
move to adjourn. All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Devin. This meeting is hereby adjourned. I'm gonna just